We begin tonight with breaking news. Jimmy Kimmel is coming back to late night. Good evening, everyone. I'm Hena Doba, and for Elizabeth Vargas. Well, just 5 days after pulling the plug on Kimmel's Late Show indefinitely over comments surrounding Charlie Kirk, Disney is turning the lights back on. Jimmy Kimmel Live will return to ABC tomorrow night. A statement from Disney today reads this quote: "Last Wednesday, we made the decision to suspend production on the show to avoid further inflaming a tense situation at an emotional moment for our country. It is a decision we made because we felt some of the comments were ill-timed and thus insensitive. We have spent the last days having thoughtful conversations with Jimmy, and after those conversations, we reached the decision to return the show on Tuesday." End quote. Let's get right to News Nation's Alex Capriello now. Alex, this is coming after a lot of pressure from Hollywood.
Yeah, you said it, Hena. Ever since Disney announced Kimmel will be taken off the air indefinitely, we've seen this massive pressure campaign from late-night talk show hosts to celebrity actors, comedians, and then, of course, those free speech absolutists. But this morning, Hollywood went on that fully throated offensive. This letter from the ACLU, signed by more than 400 artists and entertainers, called the decision to pull Kimmel dark and unconstitutional, and then asked all Americans to defend free speech. Quote, "Regardless of our political affiliation or whether we engage in politics or not, we all love our country. We also share the belief that our voices should never be silenced by those in power, because if it happens to one of us, it happens to all of us." That letter signed by the elite of show business, people like Meryl Streep, Jennifer Aniston, Tom Hanks, and then get this, even a few of Disney's superheroes themselves, like the Incredible Hulk. That's Mark Ruffalo. The business impact, of course, the controversial decision shouldn't be lost on anyone. Financially, Disney's stock has plummeted several percentage points since the suspension was announced. And then anecdotally, the Walt Disney Company suffered from a mass boycott of former Disney Plus subscribers who ended up canceling their plans. But here's what's interesting, Hannah. There's now a new chorus of voices, this time those who were offended by Kimmel's comments about the late Charlie Kirk last week, who are now threatening to actually go out there and boycott Disney. So just because Kimmel is back on the air doesn't mean the company's financial turmoil is over. And then at this point, I want to make sure I note this. Kimmel has yet to say anything or publicly comment on his reinstatement. So I think just our audience, as well as everyone else, is going to have to wait for that monologue tomorrow night.
I think you're absolutely right. A lot of us will be tuning in tomorrow night, and I haven't watched Jimmy Kimmel in a long time. I will be watching tomorrow, though. Yep. Alex Capriello, thank you so much. And Charlie Kirk's grieving widow is showing some stunning forgiveness, too, tonight. Forgiveness that is surprising many because of whom it's directed to. Erica Kirk addressed that message of forgiveness towards her husband's alleged assassin, Tyler Robinson. Choking back tears, the widow delivered the remarks at her husband's memorial service in Glendale, Arizona yesterday, more than a week after Charlie was killed. Erica said she has forgiven her husband's alleged 22-year-old murderer because she said, emotionally, that is what Charlie would do.
On the cross, our Savior said, "Father, forgive them, for they not know what they do." That man, that young man, I forgive him.
Erica's tears continued as the packed audience erupted in applause for nearly a minute. She then added, "The answer to hate is not hate. The answer is love," she said. Always love. Remarkable words that are reverberating across the country tonight. White House spokesperson Caroline Leavitt acknowledged Erica's brave message in today's briefing.
All across the country, millions of Americans have prayed, hosted vigils, attended church services, became politically engaged for the first time, and honored the legacy of Charlie and the ideals he died speaking for. The beautiful memorial service attended by President Trump and 100,000 great Americans in State Farm Stadium yesterday was just the latest example. And Erica Kirk's mercy was one of the greatest acts of grace this world has ever seen.
It's not just the White House and Kirk's supporters that are applauding Erica Kirk tonight. Pundits on both sides of the aisle are praising the young widow for the strength that she is showing For my next guest, this is not surprising. Pastor David Engelhardt has been Erica's pastor for years. He was pastor and friend to Charlie Kirk, too. A board member of Turning Point USA, Pastor Engelhardt was at the memorial service yesterday. He's joining us now. Pastor, thank you for joining us tonight.
Thank you, Hena. Pleasure to be on. It's one of the honors of my life to be one of the many pastors around Charlie and Erica Kirk over the last few years, as they've stood as such incredible and strong bastions of truth and faith. And so just for your audience, I want to say, please continue to keep them in prayer. Erica, her children, their family. And if you want to support, please go to fightforcharlie.com to support. But forgiveness is central to Christianity. And Erica knew that. And she spoke it so eloquently yesterday. The Lord's Prayer, the very center of the gospel, Jesus said, if you don't forgive men your trespasses, then your Father in heaven will not forgive you yours. And Erica knows that. And, you know, they say that bitterness is like drinking poison and hoping your enemy will die. It doesn't work that way. It damages us. Mm-hmm. And God knows that there's an antidote, and that antidote comes with forgiveness. There's a famous pundit in the early 1900s. He was asked by the London Times, what is wrong with the world? And he answers, sirs, it is I. And Christianity says, repent, for the kingdom of heaven is at hand. That means we know something's wrong with us. That way we can have grace with those around us, even in the extreme and horrific circumstances that we find ourselves in.
Well,
and
Pastor,
Erica was such a beautiful voice.
Well, and I know you lost a family friend yourself. I'm sorry for your loss, and I'm so glad you came on. Thank you again for your time. There's so much I want to talk to you about tonight. I am going to start with the latest story about Jimmy Kimmel returning to the airwaves. Your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, constitutionally, I'm a lawyer and a pastor. A private company can do it at whatever it wants. And we've had such a crazy pushback against faith conversations and Christianity in the marketplace. And the Kimmel response, the frustration for the left, seemed very stark in contrast to people like Tucker Carlson and J.D. Vance, and this incredible declaration of the gospel that I've never seen anything like that. And so we have a very stark contrast. One party or group that wants to be okay with joking about the death of my friend, and another party and group that's declaring the gospel. And so there's never been a clearer time as to what kind of speech we should support. And I'm not talking about constitutionally violate, but champion. And I think that kind of speech is a speech that lifts up the human spirit. What would you like to hear from Jimmy Kimmel tomorrow night, Pastor? Yeah, I mean, I think it'd be appropriate for him to say, I was, not thinking correctly. We're all humans and we all make mistakes, and I made a mistake. And even in the wake of Erica's incredible, uncompromising forgiveness, that sense of humility, I would hope he would have that same kind of humility and said, man, I really didn't understand these people, and I can get politically heated. We all can. And I ask for forgiveness from the American people. I think that would be a beautiful thing to say. You were at the memorial yesterday, and we heard Erica so poignantly say she is forgiving her husband's assassin. The president, however, had a different message. Let's listen to him. I'll talk to you on the other side.
He did not hate his opponents. He wanted the best for them. That's where I disagreed with Charlie. I hate my opponent, and I don't want the best for them. I'm sorry. I am sorry, Erica. But now Erica can talk to me and the whole group, and maybe they can convince me that that's not right.
Our president is always transparent there, but this wasn't a message of unity. What are your thoughts after hearing that?
I mean, it was hilarious first of all, just to be honest. And another really practical thing, Hena, is in Romans 13, the Bible really clearly states that the job of the government is to wield the sword as an avenger of justice on God's behalf. So it's okay if there are people watching today that have a deep, burning sense of justice. That's okay. Justice is a part of God's system. Justice belongs to God. Righteousness belongs to God. And the punishment for wickedness is also righteous. But there's a higher level to live. There's a higher love, which is Christ, which supersedes. It says this in the Bible, that mercy is better than justice. And we get mercy from Jesus Christ, who died for our sins because we're all sinners. And so while Trump is kind of funny, there is a purpose to that justice and safety that comes to our polity, which we're seeing in Washington, D.C., and we hope to see proliferate throughout our states, that the government brings justice. That's good. The church brings the chalice of mercy. And both of those entities are incredibly important for a flourishing and beautiful society.
Pastor, like I mentioned, you knew Charlie, you know Erica. Many are wondering, what guidance did Charlie give you and others for a moment that led to this turning point? Was Erica always part of the succession plan, as far as you know?
Yeah. As a board member, as we came together, the clear plan from Charlie, if he ever was to have a horrific event happen, would be that Erica would take the helm. And Hena, I mean, it is so incredibly clear that she is not just the right choice, but she's, to use our language as Christians, that she's anointed for this moment, just like Esther was in her time when she was called to go before the king to save a nation. Erica has been called and anointed that she would bring forth this message of forgiveness. What's the other alternative? It's vengeance, it's violence, it's hatred, it's things that inflame kind of a civil war spirit. And she's done exactly the opposite. I've been so incredibly proud of her.
Pastor, I have about 30 seconds, but I want to ask you, Charlie always joked that his wife was more conservative than he was, that he was a moderate compared to her. What is the difference here when she takes over Turning Point? Do you see any distinctions or comparisons?
Yeah, I think you're going to see some more of that mama bear energy, that just we're driving forward. And Charlie was the hero and he was the point of the spear. But now we're going to see from his seed that's gone into the earth, we're going to see an explosion of 100,000 or 1 million Charlie Kirks. And I think Erica's animated by that kind of aggressive pursuit of justice in goodness and love, proliferated through voices that tell the truth and talk about restoration and hope and beauty for our nation.
Pastor David Engelhardt, we do appreciate your time and your insight. And I know this is a difficult time for you and your family as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Hena.
Meanwhile, President Trump is on his way here to New York to speak at the UN General Assembly tomorrow. Just before he left, Trump made this major medical announcement from the White House about Tylenol.
Effective immediately, the FDA will be notifying physicians that the use of well, let's see how we say that. Acetaminophen. Is that okay? Which is basically commonly known as Tylenol, during pregnancy, can be associated with a very increased risk of autism. So taking Tylenol is not good. All right, I'll say it. It's not good.
Okay, to be fair, that's a tough word for anyone to pronounce, so we will just stick with Tylenol in this segment. President Trump says the FDA will now recommend that pregnant women limit the use of Tylenol, except for extreme situations like fever. The over-the-counter drug has been long considered one of the only safe medications pregnant women can take. And the jury is still out whether it officially leads to autism. Scientific research is inconclusive. Still, Health Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr. says the FDA will begin the process of changing safety labels and launch a public service campaign. Kennedy also says the FDA is approving a drug to help treat autism symptoms in children with cerebral folate deficiency. It's not a cure for autism, but Trump's health team says there's evidence a treatment can help improve verbal communication. The health secretary also says he's looking into vaccines.
Some 40 to 70% of mothers who have children with autism believe that their child was injured by a vaccine. President Trump believes that we should be listening to these mothers instead of gaslighting and marginalizing them like prior administrations.
Let's get reaction from Dr. Robert Redfield, former director of the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. Nice to see you again, doctor. Welcome back.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
First, your reaction to this announcement from the White House just a little while ago.
You know, I think it's an important announcement. I mean, clearly there's a commitment that the president and RFK have had to try to get a better understanding of autism, which has clearly grown substantially in its occurrence in individuals in our country. And I think they've looked at the data. You know, there was a paper that came out in August of this year that basically looked at over 40 studies that suggested that there appeared to be an association between Tylenol use and pregnancy. It doesn't prove causation, but it does suggest an association. And I think they thought it was important to bring that to the American public so they could have that information and make decisions about what they do during pregnancy.
Autism was first defined back in 1911. Tylenol hit the market decades later. I believe it was in 1955. Why are we seeing higher rates now? Is it simply because there's more screening and there's better screenings for children with autism?
I think it suggests that there's actually environmental factors. I mean, there's multiple factors that are probably leading to autism. As Jay Bhattacharya, the head of NIH, announced that they're about to award, I think, 13 grants to different scientists around the country about different ideas that they have that may cause autism, in addition to the announcement that we had today. Clearly, the previous approach that thought maybe this was genetic really didn't seem rational when you saw the increase of cases, you know, going from 1 to 1,000, 1 to 5, 1 to 100, 1 to 30, that it's probably not genetic. It probably isn't environmentally. And there's probably multiple different causes of this, of which it's been proposed that this is one, and this folate deficiency may contribute to it. So I think the most exciting thing about today was they also acknowledged that there may be a therapeutic intervention that some of these mothers can try that may benefit their children.
Yeah, I'm sure that's a relief for so many parents out there. With that said, pregnant women are getting mixed messages here. The American College of Obstetricians and Gynecologists, they're pushing back. They're saying Tylenol remains a safe option for pain relief for pregnant women. I wanted to hear your response to that.
Yeah, I think it's unfortunate. There is a tendency in medicine for people sometimes to be willing to step back from recommendations they made in the past and where they may have been incorrect. I think the conservative approach at this, in light of the data that we have today, is that that Tylenol should be not try to be used in pregnancy. And I think the president had it right when he said, if you have to use it, use as little and as you can, and for as short as you can, and get doctors involved in this, because I think it's unfortunate that certain societies just want to dismiss this and say, well, wait, we couldn't be wrong. We didn't make any mistakes. Tylenol's fine. Let's just move on.
Dr. Redfield, I am curious, why make this announcement now when lawsuits over this very issue have been dismissed and there has been data that doesn't link Tylenol or acetaminophen to autism?
Well, there have been data. As you mentioned, there's a study that came out in 2024 that was among twins that did not show an association. But then there's now a new study in August of 2025 that does strongly suggest there is an association. So I think it's part of transparency. I'm happy to see HHS and our government, when they have new information, actually put it out to the public, so that the public can evaluate whether it means to them, rather than somehow feel that they have to be the secret arbiters of this data until when and what they want to let it out. So I think it's just Kennedy's committed, and I do still think that Kennedy is going to be one of the most consequential secretaries of health that our nation's ever had, and I do think for the good. I think Kennedy's committed to trying to get a better understanding of what's causing autism. I don't think he has any predisposed knowledge of what it is, and I think that's why he's asked NIH to put out what they're going to announce. I think in a week or so, the 13 different grants to go after different potential causes, and our scientific firepower is going to focus on trying to get a better understanding. We're not going to stop at the Tylenol. There's probably multiple other causes that are leading to autism, and let's figure them out.
I want to switch to vaccines. I am running out of time, but I want to make sure I get this in because I know parents are curious. Trump today did bring up childhood vaccines, advocating for them to be spread out, smaller doses over a period of a few years. Do you agree with that? And should the Hep B vaccine, for instance, be given a bit later to children, to infants?
Yeah, first I want to say that, I'm a vaccine fan. I think it's the most important gift of science to modern medicine. That said, I think that there is some rationale behind the idea, do we have to give all these vaccines at once? When I went in the military, I think I got 17 different vaccines within 2 days, or do we spread them out? And I think, part of the reason we've combined these vaccines is for convenience. And if there's any concern that they could be associated with risk and side effects, maybe we shouldn't combine them. I agree with the ACIP's recent recommendation not to include the varicella vaccine with the MMR, because that was associated with increased brain swelling in children under the age of 4. Now, whether or not that could be expanded to why we should give measles, mumps, and rubella separately, I think it's reasonable to consider it. Related to the hepatitis B vaccine, I'm a big advocate that there's no rational reason to be vaccinating all children, within the first month of life. They're not at risk for hepatitis B if we screen their mothers and they're hepatitis B antigen negative. I do agree with the president that this is a vaccine we should think about using when children turn to be 12, 13, 14, 15, because it's sexually transmitted by drug use. So I think there's a real advantage to have fresh eyes, re-examine what decisions we've made for routine childhood vaccination. And I think Kennedy's going to do that. And people should give him the benefit of the doubt to have that analysis.
Dr. Robert Redfield, I always appreciate our conversations. Thank you for coming on, sir.
Thanks for having me. God bless.
Coming up, we are live from East Palestine. A $600 million settlement between residents and Norfolk Southern was supposed to help ease the burden of chronic health conditions. But now some residents who joined that class action lawsuit say they want out. We'll tell you why they think they were lied to and deceived into joining it in the first place. And horrifying news out of Oklahoma, where a tiger just mauled its handler. Someone with links to Tiger King Joe Exotic. That's straight ahead. Now to a NewsNation exclusive, the latest on a situation NewsNation has followed from the very start. People in East Palestine, Ohio are fighting for answers, and in some cases, fighting for their lives. More than 2.5 years after a train derailed in their town, sending toxic chemicals into their community, a $600 million settlement last year between residents and Norfolk Southern was supposed to help ease the burden of chronic health conditions many are facing. Well, now some residents who joined that class action lawsuit say they want out. They argue that they were lied to and deceived into joining that suit. This comes as just last week, Norfolk Southern said cleanup from the disaster was complete and all the toxins were gone. There was no press release or major announcement for that milestone. A note on the company's website stated the site was restored. But independent testing says that is not the case. Tonight, residents are speaking out about all of it. NewsNation investigative correspondent Rich McHugh is live in East Palestine for us for a town hall meeting where people are sharing their frustrations. Rich, it's always good to see you. You were a part of this town hall, and you inspired a lot of these people to speak up. You've done the testing. You've been on the ground. Tell me more. What's going on tonight?
Well, thank you, Hena. Yeah, we've been covering this from the start, and I got to say there's more people at this event, this town hall tonight. Just beyond these doors, it's standing room only, 300 to 400 people deep. They have questions as the number of people here, the sick is rising, and they have questions about this settlement. Many of them feel that they were bamboozled into joining it, and they want out. Before February 3rd, 2023, Austin Druckenbrod was a happy and healthy 24-year-old. Then they burned 5 tankers of vinyl chloride over East Palestine. He worked in an open-air setting a mile away.
We could kind of smell the toxins, the chemicals, I thought it was kind of like, a normal work day and such. So I started getting kind of breathing dysfunction. I was coughing up blood. Had diarrhea blood, had wheezing, couldn't breathe.
The Cleveland Clinic diagnosed Austin with reactive airway disease, a diagnosis they linked to exposure to the chemicals in East Palestine. Austin had scans of his brain conducted. This is what a normal brain scan looks like, and this is Austin's brain scan showing extreme swelling.
It's ruined my life, in every way that I could possibly imagine, to say it.
He joined the massive class action settlement on the promise of millions.
We're going to take care of you. We're going to make sure you get $3 to $6.8 million and all of the, and then they told me to not tell anybody.
They said, don't tell anyone?
The class action attorneys hid him. And they hid him so that no one else in East Palestine would know that there were doctors capable of making diagnosis related to exposure. And with Austin specifically, They hid him and shamed him so he would think that the only choice he had was the class action claim rather than filing his own lawsuit.
Today, attorneys Mindy Bish and Melinda Young have taken over Austin's case.
Once they reached a settlement agreement, the class action attorneys were motivated to get as many people as possible to opt in to this personal injury payment. And in order to do that, they had to bring in someone, a doctor, to say that there would be no long-term consequences, no cancers, no health issues to the residents of East Palestine.
The levels that people were exposed to in the community were so small that we don't expect any kinds of cancers or other health effects to have resulted from those.
And then when the court asked the class action attorneys if they had, in fact, told residents there would be no health risks, the class action attorneys misrepresented that fact to the judge and told the judge they never told anyone that, which was just not true.
His former attorney, Michael Watts, denied the characterizations. I did not communicate with him to stay quiet. If he believed that he had a personal injury claim worth pursuing, we certainly advocated for those clients to simply opt out to continue to pursue their personal injury litigation.
People are starting to get diagnoses that say go home and get your affairs in order. 24-year-olds who are now 27, like Austin, people who have been betrayed and not taken care of. These attorneys could have found the truth and could have taken care of East Palestine, and they chose money over their clients. And there's just no other explanation for it.
Now, Austin's new attorneys, plan to file a motion in federal court so that he and others in his predicament can be released from the settlement and pursue their own claims independently. Hena?
Rich, thank you so much. And I have no doubt this community is so grateful to you and your reporting. Thank you again. And coming up, a close-up and behind-the-scenes look at the B-2 bombers that took out Iran's nuclear facilities. NewsNation was first to talk to the key players involved. That's next. Welcome back. I'm Hena Doba and for Elizabeth Vargas. So here's some news that broke today that seemed pretty random yet oddly specific. The Trump administration just finalized its ban on Iranian diplomats based here in New York City from shopping at Costco, of all places. Yes, Costco. Turns out representatives from the Islamic Republic have been shopping there pretty often. They're buying goods in bulk, but they can't get it back home. So they're sending it to friends and relatives. And those free cheese samples and tiny cups of trail mix, yeah, those days are gone. Iranians will also have to request permission straight from the Trump administration if they want to buy anything worth $1,000 or more. Meanwhile, it was the breaking news heard around the world in an instant. American bunker buster bombs unleashed to strike at the very heart of Iran's nuclear program. Operation Midnight Hammer was the largest B-2 bomber mission in U.S. history, and its success was thanks to the 4,000 personnel working behind the scenes. And now, for the first time, we're getting a behind-the-scenes look at how they pulled it off. NewsNation's Kelly Meyer was the very first reporter to sit down with the key players involved in that unprecedented mission. Kelly, I'm so looking forward to this story. Good evening.
Yeah, hey there, Hena. It was an incredible day at Whiteman Air Force Base. I was able to step into one of those B-2 bombers that flew that now historic journey. But as you mentioned, what we learned there was the operation was much more than just those B-2 pilots. It was the 4,000 plus men and women at Whiteman Air Force Base that they say made this mission a success.
That contains all the survival gear a pilot would need.
A mission of this magnitude.
This one will strap across the fronts.
Okay. Depends on more than just premier pilots.
This over here.
This largest B-2 mission in U.S. history, all made possible by the 4,000 men and women at Whiteman Air Force Base in Missouri, who wait around the clock for the call. We got a rare opportunity to meet some of them.
I don't think I've ever seen a camera in this facility before.
So we're really giving people an inside look at what it's really like.
You'll think about it like a football team at practice, right, where everybody's got their different roles to play. So we practice that multiple times a year.
Starting with hand-picking the pilots, a job for Colonel Whittala and Colonel Kennish.
When we stepped the crews out to go fly, it felt like stepping a bunch of close friends out and maybe even some family members out to go fly because this is just such a small community.
The identity of the pilots kept private due to the dangerous nature of the mission. For the commanders, secrecy is key to everything they do at the base.
So the family members did not understand, what was going on with the mission until it was announced to the world.
But even before the pilots flew 18 hours nonstop from Missouri to Iran with 14 bunker busters in tow, those 30,000-pound bombs were loaded very carefully by Chief Master Sergeant Frank Espinoza of the 509th Maintenance Group and his team.
Can you talk about how you get this size weapon onto that aircraft and what goes into that part of it?
There's a trailer behind me where the weapon is in, and that is controlled by this power control unit.
Okay.
And what's really incredible is that the average age of the person that drives this is between 18 and 22 years old. And over 500 steps that they have to memorize in order to get that bomb into the bay. Right?
500 steps.
500 steps.
Wow.
Yeah. You can only get it right one time. If you don't do it right or you hit the aircraft, the mission is done.
Then there's the gear.
So the last piece of equipment is your helmet.
Wow. It's very noise canceling.
It is.
Where one misstep could cost the mission.
So I think altogether it's about 35 to 40 pounds of total equipment you put on.
Every piece is triple checked.
The night before they took off in the mission, they all came down and got refitted to make sure all their equipment fit correctly. They made sure that all the survival vests were packed and loaded and ready to go for our air crew to come out, check them out, and get ready to go fly the mission.
And finally, just before the flight, Colonel Whittala, just 3 days on the job, had one of the biggest responsibilities of all.
I realized I got to give a speech at the end of this. I've got to give the go to war speech as the wing commander. So I kind of changed my focus and wrote that out.
Can you share any bit of that speech?
I told them that they were stepping out the door in the finest tradition of what it means to be an airman and the finest tradition of what it means to be part of the 509th Bomb Wing, that they had my confidence and that I knew that they would succeed.
What happened here at Whiteman is a lasting legacy this group of dedicated professionals leaves behind, while the next wave gets back to work.
The impact of that strike, I think, will make some of our adversaries second guess their planning going forward. In that regard, I think this historic strike will make a difference in projecting peace through strength.
While the commanders and President Trump call the strikes a success, experts continue to weigh the effectiveness and just how far they set back Iran's nuclear program. There's also a growing concern that it could have pushed Iran closer to adversaries like Russia and China. Today, Iran's nuclear chief is in Moscow. He says that the two countries are set to sign an agreement that could mean Russia building 8 nuclear power plants in Iran. Hena?
Kelly, thank you for that update. Also, you look really good in that pilot uniform. Not bad at all, my friend. Great story. Thank you, Kelly Meyer. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
And coming up, a well-loved tiger trainer in Oklahoma was just mauled to death by the animal he raised since it was a cub. Did that tiger know he was inflicting any harm? We'll ask wildlife biologist Forrest Galante next. Now some horrifying news out of Oklahoma, where a tiger mauled and killed its handler. Ryan Easley ran the Growler Pines Preserve, which is a private facility offering tours and demonstrations with retired circus tigers. Ryan was also a former associate of imprisoned zoo owner and Netflix star Joe Exotic, at one point keeping some of his animals at the Tiger King's facility. Ryan was said to be nearing the end of a show when a tiger who he had handled since birth attacked him out of nowhere. He suffered bites to his neck and shoulder. Ryan was just 37 years old. Joining us now is wildlife biologist and TV host Forrest Galante, who has decades of experience with apex predators. Forrest, thank you for coming on tonight.
Thank you.
This is beyond devastating. What was the first thing that went through your mind when you heard about Ryan's death?
You know, it's just so sad, and I can tell you without any doubt that the tiger did not attack him maliciously or attack him viciously. It was simply a mistake. The problem is when you're dealing with, a 500-pound wild cat, one little mistake whether it's an agitation, similar to what you get with your house cat, can be fatal. You know, the difference with your house cat is it's a little scratch, and with a tiger, that it's just a poorly placed bite that can end someone like Ryan's life. So it really is an unfortunate event.
Ryan handled this tiger since it was a cub. They were apparently very close. You have experience with these animals close up. How unpredictable are they?
You know, a cat's a cat at the end of the day, Hena. And I for any cat owners out there, you know exactly what I'm talking about. You know, your cat can be super sweet and fun, and you can be tickling him on the tummy, and then he can just swipe at you out of agitation or aggravation or just out of sheer boredom. And like I said before, the difference is when a tiger does that, it can be absolutely fatal. So it doesn't even matter if you raise them from a cub or you pull them out of the wild. I'm certain this tiger didn't want to kill Ryan. It was just a cat being a cat. And that variable of unpredictability that large cats exhibit, and the fact that that predator instinct and that behavior is there, means that you can never truly trust them, whether it's this or, you know, the old Vegas performers. I'm blanking on their names, but you know, these accidents happen around these big cats, and it is the reason why so many institutions are against hands-on work with them.
Yeah, you're talking about Siegfried and Roy, and Freud, you're right. I completely, you're right. And that case, of course, happened a few years ago. And Ryan's father is explaining it the same way. He said it looked like a love bite. What happens to this tiger now? Typically in these situations.
It's a great question. I'm not sure what the state of Oklahoma does in this situation because each state has its own laws. Typically, when an animal kills a handler, it is euthanized. Now, in this case, I believe a lot of these tigers were rescued, whether that was from Joe Exotic or other locations. So this tiger is already a problem child, if you will. So whether or not the tiger gets euthanized is hard to say. The unfortunate thing about it is it's not the tiger's fault. You know, while the tiger may have, as his father said, given him a love bite that ultimately was just poorly placed and ended Ryan's life, it was just a cat being a cat. So I'm not sure what will ultimately happen to this animal or any of the other animals at his facility, but hopefully if they are rehomed, they're rehomed to places where perhaps there's a little bit more hands-off nature, because ultimately, even though I do think the cats tend to enjoy that behavioral enrichment and that connection with people when they've been hand-raised, it never really is safe.
I mean, look at the size of that animal. It's absolutely incredible. They weigh close to 500 pounds. You mentioned Tiger King. Joe Exotic wrote on Facebook, he wrote this: "We don't need further laws to ban tigers because of this, because you can get killed doing just about anything." Would you agree with that?
I mean, yes, but if you decide to hold a metal pole up in a lightning storm, you're more likely to get struck by lightning. You know what I mean? If you're playing with a tiger, you're more likely to be killed by a tiger. I think that law and regulation is already relatively loose in the state of Oklahoma around big cat ownership, which is why this preserve was there, why Joe Exotic's preserve was there. It's really, at the end of the day, not about the laws, but about people making good choices. And I'm not saying that Ryan made a poor choice, but he obviously had intimate contact with these animals, and you can see what the outcome was.
And Forrest, you yourself have dealt with really big, intimidating animals. I'm sure you've had some scary situations you found yourself in.
Many, but you know, I typically work with wild animals, not captive hand-reared animals. And at the end of the day, and I'm sure Ryan would feel the same way, and I'm sure his father feels the same way, it's never the animal's fault. You know, it was Ryan who chose to go in and interact with that animal. It's me who chooses to dart or collar or tag or work with predators. And if something happens, it's because we have put ourselves in those situations, whether that's for love of the big animal or to try and save it or to try and hunt it, whatever it happens to be. And it really is not the animal's fault. That tiger did not want to attack Ryan. Do you know what I mean? Ryan went into his enclosure and was working with him, and this was the very unfortunate outcome. So it doesn't matter what line of dangerous predator work you're in. If you're working with them, there are huge risks involved.
Forrest, going to ask you of one of your harrowing experiences. Do you mind sharing it with us?
Yeah, I mean, I was darting lions in Zimbabwe a few years ago, and one of the tranquilizers did not take fully. And so I had this big male lion come rushing over to me, and I ended up dropping flat on the ground in my camouflage because I was tracking him on foot. And he basically fell asleep on top of me, which, you know, had he not been as drunk on his dart serum and I not laid flat on the ground, it could have been a similar result to this. And that's with a wild lion. And you just never know what's going to happen in the field with these things. It is so unpredictable, but you can see how magnificent they are, and they deserve all the respect and love and not fear, but attention that they get in a positive light, in my opinion.
Well, that's an incredible story. I'm glad you're okay. And I appreciate you coming on today and talking about this. Forrest Galante, thank you.
Thank you.
And coming up, we have some breaking news to tell you about, an update on Jimmy Kimmel's return to late night tomorrow. Chris Cuomo is going to talk to me about it. Stick around. We have a breaking news update on our top story tonight. Disney announced that Jimmy Kimmel's Late Show is returning to ABC tomorrow night. We told you that on the top of the show, but not everyone will be able to watch it. Sinclair Broadcast Group just announced moments ago that it is preempting Kimmel's show across all of its ABC affiliate stations. Instead, Kimmel will be replaced with news programming. Again, this just announced by Sinclair a few moments ago. Chris Cuomo joining me now. Chris, always good to see you. What do you make of Kimmel's return tomorrow and now this move by Sinclair we're learning about?
I think it's interesting. I look forward to seeing how he uses the opportunity. I think the speculation that he's going to double down on his take about the fallout from Charlie Kirk's murder is nonsense. And frankly, it's just more people fanning the flames, But it will be interesting to see how he balances being funny with addressing where we are right now, which we need people with major platforms to do.
Yeah, I haven't watched Jimmy Kimmel in a long time, but I'm sure a lot of people like me will be tuning in tomorrow. So we'll see how it plays out. That does it for us tonight.
I never watch any of those. I never watch any of those shows. But this is a moment we're living right now, and we'll see what we do with it. Hena, good to see you.
Always good to see you, Chris. Take it away.
Thank you for watching. Subscribe below and download our NewsNation app right now on your phone, and you will get fact-based, unbiased news for all Americans.